Hi there. Last video we looked at working out what the sum of the interior angles of a polygon is and applying this handy formula. This lesson we're going to look at using that sum to find a missing angle when we're given a polygon. So in this first example we're given 4 of the 5 angles in our pentagon and we're asked to work out what this 5th angle is here. So the first step we need to take is we need to figure out what all 5 of these add up to. And to do that, you guessed it, we're going to use this handy formula here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides in this polygon. So that tells me that n is equal to 5. So our first step is to substitute this into our formula. So we get the sum is equal to 180 times by 5 minus 2. Now 5 minus 2 is 3, so this is equal to 180 times by 3, which is equal to 540 degrees. So I know that all 5 of these angles must add up to 540 degrees. Now if you've seen my exterior angle video, you'll know that our general strategy now is to add up the angles that we are given and then work out what we need to add on to take that up to 540. So let's try that now. So let's add these up. So 110, 120, 100 and 135. So if we add those up we get 5, 5, 4. So the 4 angles we're given add up to 455 degrees. Now we need to work out what does this have to be to make this total 540. And to work that out, you guessed it, we subtract 455 from 540. Now, to do this, I need to borrow 1 from the 4, that makes that 10, and then I'll borrow 1 from the 5, that makes that 13, which makes that 8, which gives me an answer of 85 degrees. So in this question, x is equal to 85 degrees. Okay, so in this next example, there are 2. So I'm going to do this question. While I'm doing this question, follow along trying to do this question. As always, feel free to pause the video if you need a little bit of time to finish your working off before I start on the next step over here. Okay, so our general strategy is, remember, step 1, we had to find what all of these angles added up to using our handy formula up here. So the first thing we need to do is count the number of sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 7 sides, so that means that n is equal to 7. Okay, now just be careful, your value of n will be different. Okay. Right, so next we need to use this handy formula. So the sum is equal to 180 times by 7 minus 2. Okay, now 7 take away 2 is equal to 5, so that's equal to 180 times by 5, which is equal to 900 degrees. So I know that all of my angles add up to 900 degrees. So our second step is to add up the angles that we know. So all 7 angles need to add up to 900. We need to work out what these 6 angles add up to. So 140, 155, 175, 150, and then the bottom 2, 100 and 115. Let's add those up. 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15, carry the 1. 4 plus 5 is 9, 16, 21, 22, 23, carry the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 835. So these 6 angles add up to 835. So now we need to work out what our missing angle is, and to do that we subtract the sum of all the angles from the sum of those 6 angles to work out what's left over for x. So we do 900, we subtract 835, now we're going to have to do some borrowing here, so let's borrow 1 from this 9 to make it an 8, that makes that a 10, but then we borrow 1 to make that a 9, so then we've got 10 here. So 10 take away 5 is 5, 9 take away 3 is 6, 8 take away 6 is 0. So our final answer is that x is equal to 65. Now now's a good time to pause your video if you've not quite finished this one, because I'm going to go through the answers to that in a second. Okay, so nice and quickly then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, so n is equal to 6, so my sum is equal to 180 times by 6 minus 2, which is equal to 180 times by 4, which is equal to 720. So altogether they are up to 720. Let's add up my known angles. Now we mustn't forget about this right angle here. So I've got 160, 170, 90, 155 and 140. Now altogether they make 5, 13, 22, 31, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 715. So our last step is to subtract. So we do 720 degrees, take away 715 degrees, leaves us with 5 degrees for our value of x. Now this tells us that actually this sketch probably wasn't a very good sketch for this question, because it's not looking like that is going to be 5, but that is just because this shape isn't very well drawn. So if you managed to get 5, well done. Slightly odd answer, but following through the maths, completely correct. Okay, so our final example. This one's slightly different because now we've got 2 angles that we don't know instead of the one that we had before. But our strategy is going to be exactly the same. We need to find out what all 4 angles need to add together to make. Then we're going to subtract the angles that we know, and that'll tell us what these 2 angles have to add up to. We've got a final little step at the end that we're going to do to deal with these x's, but until then it's exactly the same strategy. So can I remember what our first step was from before? Yeah, so we need to count the number of sides, and that tells us our value of n in our formula. So our first line of working out is going to be n equals 5, which means that the sum is equal to 180 times by 5 minus 2, which is 180 times by 3, which is 540 degrees. So all 5 of these angles need to add up to 540 degrees. So our next step is going to be add these 3 that we know. So we've got 110, 100 and 105. If we add those up, we get 513, 315. So then our next step is to subtract the 315 from the 540. So if we do 540 minus 315, again we need to borrow 1 from the 4, 5, 2, 2, that gives me 225. So 225 is what these 2 angles have to add together to make, so that all 5 angles add up to 540. So what we need to do, let's write that down. 2x and 3x, if we add those together, it has to give us 225. Now we can do a little bit of simplification here. 2x plus 3x gives me 5x, correct? Okay, and then we want to get x on its own, which means we need to get rid of this 5. Now, who can remember how we get rid of this 5 here in an equation? Absolutely right, we've got to divide by 5, because that is the opposite of timesing by 5, which is what this 5 and this x are doing. So dividing by 5 gets rid of that 5 on this side, that leaves me with x. And then 225 divided by 5, well, the easiest way to do it is to double this and then divide it by 10. So double 225 is 450, and then divide that by 10 gives me 45 degrees. So our final answer is that x is equal to 45 degrees, which means that this angle is equal to 90 degrees, and this angle is equal to 135 degrees.